What is going on, NFL fans? Welcome back to another episode of the J All Day Show. We have some breaking NFL news, a huge trade, a potentially AFC altering trade. Davante Adams has just been traded from the Raiders to the Jets. That's right. Davante Adams is reuniting with his former quarterback in the Big Apple. New York Jets get their guy, Davante Adams, on the outside with Garrett Wilson and Lazard in the slot. That's a very formidable wide receiving core for Aaron Rodgers, right? The pick that the Raiders are getting are a conditional third-round pick. Some of the underlying conditions for this pick, it can become a second if Adams is on the roster in the AFC Championship game in the Super Bowl, or if he's a first or second team All-Pro. The Jets love these conditional picks. They did similar stuff when they traded Reddick with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? But the Eagles are not going to get anything because Reddick's not playing, obviously. But I want to talk a little bit about this trade and whether or not this can make a difference for the Jets this year. They lost a really tough game last night to Buffalo. They should have won that game. There was some bad officiating on both sides of the ball. They had a touchdown called back on I think it was a holding penalty on Tyron Smith, who's been struggling a lot, right? But it was a pretty ticky-tack call. That cost them the game. Their kicker missed 2 kicks as well. A lot of BS went into that game that had the Jets ultimately lose. I think the refs ultimately lost that game for the Jets. The Bills didn't play great. They played just okay. So, can Davante Adams make a difference for the Jets? Absolutely he can. But, in my opinion, if you take a look at your screen right now, their biggest problem is not the wide receivers, in my opinion. Even though Lazard is one of the top wide receivers with drops this year. It's the offensive line, right? If we look at Tyron Smith, his grades have come down from his peak, right? 70.8 overall grade so far. But that doesn't really tell the whole story. This is the whole story, right? He's allowed 16 quarterback pressures this year. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount. And he's also 5 sacks allowed, 2 QB hits allowed, 5 penalties. I mean, he's not been great this year. I think these PFF grades are a little higher than he's actually even playing this year. He's getting a little bit older. He's going to be 34 by the end of the season. On the other side, Morgan Moses only has a 54 PFF grade. The interior offensive line, the guards, and the center have been playing pretty well so far this year for the Jets. But the tackles have not been playing great. And when Olufashinu got into the game when Morgan Moses was out, he didn't look good either. He's typically a left tackle. They had him playing right tackle. I think you should be able to swing over and be at least serviceable at the opposite tackle position that you're normally playing at, right? But, man, Davante Adams he's a great player, right? He brings a little bit of baggage coming over from the Raiders, but him and Aaron Rodgers have that symbiotic relationship. They're going to be on the same page, right? Nathaniel Hackett's not calling plays anymore, so we'll have to see how that works out as time goes on. They should have won that game yesterday. Aaron Rodgers played okay. He did throw that interception at the end of the game, but the game was already lost by that big penalty when they went in to score. And the kicker missing a chip shot 30-yard field goal, and then he missed another 47-yarder. I get it was windy, but you got to adjust. That's why you go out pregame, you kick on both ends, and you make adjustments. If the wind's blowing across the field, you got to adjust your kicks. But that's a whole nother story. But I do like this trade for both teams. It looks like they're probably going to get a third-round pick for Davante Adams, which in my opinion is not enough. If it becomes a third round, they should have had to throw in like a 6th-round pick or something, or a 5th-round pick. Just getting a 3 with the conditions of it being a 2, I don't love that deal for the Raiders. Could Davante Adams have held out and then you get nothing? Sure. A 3rd-round pick. It seems like the demand for Davante Adams wasn't really there. So probably that's why they had to settle for a 3rd-round pick, right? So I guess it's an okay trade for the Raiders. You get something as opposed to nothing. And it looks like the Jets are going to pay most of the salary, right? So that's good for the Raiders as well. And then the Jets, that AFC East is wide open, guys. Anybody can win that division except for the Patriots and the Dolphins. But Mike McDaniel, the head coach, said that Tua could potentially come back. So if they can stay around 500 and allow Tua to come back in, I don't know, maybe week 10-ish, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be having Tua come back. I think that's insane. But between the Buffalo Bills and the Jets, it's a two-headed race, right? It's wide open between those two teams. No one has put a stamp on this division at all whatsoever. The Bills haven't been playing great the last 3 weeks. The Jets get a potential, all-pro-ish. We'll have to see how much Davante Adams has left in the tank. He's coming off an injury. But I like this trade for both sides. I don't know if anybody really won or lost this trade. I think the Raiders took what they could get. I don't think there was the potential of getting more, probably, so they just took what they could get because they probably thought Adams would be injured the rest of the year or wouldn't want to play or whatever. But let's be honest, this Raiders team needs picks, right? So I like it for the Raiders. I like it for the Jets. I think this is pretty much a wash. I think both teams get what they need. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers is getting older. The Jets need a trade for some offensive line help, in my opinion. Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, they brought them in to shore up this offensive line, and they've been the weak links of this offensive line, actually. So they either got to play better or do something. They're both getting older. I don't know. We'll have to see. The Jets are in a win-now mode with an older Rodgers, older guys at the tackle positions. Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, I don't think are going to be getting better at their age. We've seen a decline in their play for both of these guys already this year, so it's shit or get off the pot type of situation for the Jets. They make the deal. They give up a third-round pick. The Raiders get another pick because they stink. They need all the picks they can get, right? So I think this is a pretty fair trade, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think the Jets have a chance to win the AFC East with the addition of Davante Adams? And do you think this is a good deal for the Raiders